Hi, I'm Ernie.
And I'm Ben.
And this is Budget Nerds.
How you make it, how you wanna make it, how you make it, how you
You are not alone.
No, you are not. Friends, welcome back to another episode. Ben, welcome back. Good to have you here as always. Today we are talking about setbacks. What to do when you financially get hit in the gut. And
Exactly.
this is a topic that was actually inspired by a YouTube comment. So we read all your comments, all your emails, and we respond to many of them. But this comment, it was on the Many Goals, One Plan video. Can you guys do an episode on dealing with setbacks? I was in a good financial position and got ravaged a fair bit. I want to stick with YNAB, but it's no longer as fun. So this is different than falling off the wagon, right?
This isn't like, oh, you didn't approve transactions for a while and your things are a mess. Right?
Yeah, this is something happened or a series of events and you're just, you got ravaged a bit and you're looking at YNAB and you're like, oh my goodness, all this money is gone or this, future income is lost. What do I do now? I feel like I'm back to ground zero. I feel like I'm starting over and it's not as fun anymore. I think this is something that all YNAB'ers deal with from time to time.
I mean, I'm in it right now, Ernie, I feel like, because this past year, and it's funny because I talked about how like I had a big jump in, not a big jump in income, but a big jump in cash flow because the childcare situation changed, right? And so I think going into this year, like looking into that, I was like, oh man, this is going to be the year when we save all this money and like do that, like something big on the house again, right? Because I did a bathroom renovation that took a lot of saving and then a lot of time. And we did another renovation on another room. And I was like, wanted to keep that progress going, right? And I was like, oh, we're going to have so much more income. Like, we can do all this stuff. It hasn't been that way. We've been cleaning up messes all year. So it is kind of a bummer, Yeah. It's not as fun. I think I like the way they described it in the email. It's like, it's just not as fun right now. How do I handle that, So I can get into that. But yeah, I think this is really important to discuss because I think when people do talk about their money, they're either talking about like, oh, I'm confused or I need help with something, or they're talking about like, oh man, things are great and my net worth is $1 bajillion and like, or I'm having so much fun right now, because naturally you're going to talk about it when it's like that, but people don't talk about it when they're just like, I don't know, things are kind of a bummer right now,
Yeah. That's a really good point. I mean, and we share all the YNAB wins and you read the other comments and, on the episodes. And there, you can get that sense that like, oh, everyone else is winning right now. I'm the only one, but that's just not true. We all deal with these setbacks.
Yeah. So let's talk about it. I mean, I guess I can, should I share now like what my financial year of weirdness. I almost said my financial year of hell, but I feel like that's a little intense.
Yeah.
It hasn't been that bad. But I do think because I've used YNAB for so long, like I have the resilience to handle these things. It's still a bummer though. You know what I mean? Like it's still like, ugh.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
Like I could tell you, every single day for the next year that like, Ben, setbacks are normal. They're going to happen. Expect them. But you're prepared for it. And then when they actually happen again, you're like, oh, bummer, this shouldn't have happened. Or, I don't know.
But it's at least for me, it's like a bummer, but it's not like, oh no, I'm going to die. I'm destitute. But like, it would have been that way if these things happened like 10 years ago. It absolutely would have been that way. I would have been like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to need to borrow money. I haven't had to borrow money through it. So let me go through. It's not really that many things. So, okay. It started in April with a giant tax bill. We owed $6,000. And Ernie, like, I didn't change anything. I don't know what is going on. Like, taxes and me, I never get my withholdings right, like ever. Do you understand how
I know
feel about
exactly
this?
what
Like,
you mean, because I've made numerous tweaks to my withholdings, and
yeah,
I'm like, what? I thought I made an adjustment, and I'm still in the same place I was last year.
yeah, and I after so I owed $6,000 in taxes. That was like a big old chunk of money. I mean, like I had to use the whole emergency fund. Not my month ahead money, but like my emergency fund money, which I like so rarely have to tap that, because we save them for true expenses. But like this is totally unexpected, and I don't know. I do the IRS calculator thing, and it tells me like, oh, you're good. You don't need to make any changes. And I'm like, well, what happened last year? Like, don't make any changes one year. Like they owe me $2,000, and then next year I owe them $6,000. I'm like, I don't know. And then, and I have a little bit of weird feelings about CPAs because you know my CPA story.
Yeah, I remember that.
Where
rant.
they just were like, oh man, they were the worst. And then like, I've tried to get with other CPAs, and they're like, they won't give me the time of day. So like, I don't know what it is, man. Like, anyways, I feel like I need a guy, like or a gal. Like I need a person who can fix this for me and just do it and do a good job. Because I went to another CPA that was even worse. He did not inspire confidence. He had like papers everywhere, and he was like tapping numbers. Oh man, I've had bad experiences with financial professionals when it comes to taxes. So I don't really want to do that, but I don't know what I'm doing either. So, anyways.
So this setback was emotionally charged for you. Definitely.
Apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, because I feel like there was nothing I could have done. You know what I mean? But here's what it is. There's nothing I could have done, but there probably is something I could have done. But I just I don't know what it was. And I feel like I'll never know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
yeah.
But you bring up a good point. I think it's really good to process the setback. To think through what actually happened. Right. What did I do? Is there anything I could have done differently? Just to I don't know, relieve some of those built up emotions maybe, to think through it and to make a plan for next time. And, sometimes there isn't a plan. Sometimes these setbacks, they just kind of completely come out of nowhere. And you're like, hey, I did everything. I did the withholdings. I went to the calculator. I thought I did it right. And I still got it wrong. Sometimes you can't do anything. But I think sometimes we can learn from our setbacks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think there is an element too of here's another reason why this was a bummer, is because not only did I need to find the money to pay the taxes, but I also needed to change my withholding for next time, right? Because I was just like, okay, I'm done with this calculator because it's not working, so I'll just change my withholding to where we save $6,000 more in taxes, right?
Yep.
For next year.
Yep.
And probably next year they'll be like, well, we owe you $12,000. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and then I'll adjust it again. I don't know, but anyways, there's that element too, where it's like, okay, sometimes it's hard because you're already down and out. You got hit with something, and then, like you said, you should process it, be like, what happened? And sometimes the answer to that question is, hey, you need to bite the bullet and embrace your true expenses. You need to save more for taxes. You need to save more for medical bills or whatever it is. And dealing with that reality is another level of emotional pain, right?
Yeah.
Now you have less cash flow, and it's it just shouldn't be this way, So I did that too, and that was at least lessened by. Well, we got more income coming in to offset it, but it was less than I thought it was going to be. It's still a bummer. But yeah, I think that's true. Process it, be like, hey, okay, what am I feeling right now?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I? For me, it was anger, ranty anger, and it's okay, why am I feeling this way? And then, okay, well, what do I need to do to adjust this? Because it's too easy to ignore and call everything a fluke. You know what I mean? And then you just set yourself up for another or for getting kicked in the butt again, right? So it's always better, and it's so true. It's just always better to embrace that setback and say, okay, what can I do to solve it next time? And even if that means you need to save for something that you don't really want to save for because it's kind of a bummer, it's better than ignoring it. Because one, you're going to get kicked in the butt again, and two, you have this like cognitive dissonance. There's like always in the back of your mind, like, oh man, I really should be, like every time you sit down to assign money, you're gonna be like, I really should be saving for that, because it's going to happen again, right? You don't want that just biting you in the ankle,
Completely. Yeah, this is something that I just recently experienced on a very much smaller scale here. Talking about our Ridge category. So Ridge is our dog. And for the longest time, like well over a year, I've just had one singular category for Ridge. And we were putting in $300 every single month. And we were, severely overspending this category every single month. And so every month I had that like punch in the stomach of, oh my goodness, we have to roll with the punches again and again and again and again. And finally I was just like, enough of this setback every single month. I'm going to figure out what's going on here. So I went through all of the Ridge expenses from the past year, and I broke out that one category into, I think, 5 or 6 different categories.
Okay.
So
analyzing it a little bit.
I was analyzing it. So the food and the treats, the pet insurance, the medical bills, the supplies, the groomers. I broke it all out and set new targets.
Okay.
And so I established where my reality actually is.
And you can see like what you can control, because the vet bills you probably can't control, but maybe the treats and the toys you can, right?
Yes.
And so you can figure that out, like what's really bleeding here, because you might like look at it and be like, oh, well, it's just all vet bills. You had some stuff, we got to deal with it. Or you could be like, whoa, all of this is toys for Ridge that he tears up in 2 minutes, right? Like maybe we could find another solution here. You know what I mean?
And a lot of it was just the basics that we need to keep him alive, healthy, and happy. So it wasn't like unnecessary spending. So we ended up, the targets, it took out an additional $125, like these new targets. So all of a sudden, the margin that we had available every month was diminished. Like we had less free money to play with now. And so I felt that. I was like, bummer. But at the same time, I was like, I was so relieved that I kind of knew the reason of the setback that I was experiencing every single month. And I had this new plan going forward that I'm like, okay, I've addressed it. And yes, it means fewer dollars to do something else with, but I feel like I've nailed down the situation and its actual reality a lot better.
Yeah. There's so much meat on that bone, I think, because it's like, it would be easy to say, oh man, that money is just a waste, but it's not. You're buying something. You're buying the relief, because this is causing you a lot of frustration and you don't know why. And then you looked at it and you said, actually, it's all legitimate. It's all something we need to spend money on. And I just need to recognize that this is something that we value and make it a part of the plan. And now you did. And yeah, I think it's still good to acknowledge, like, it's still kind of a bummer that you have less cash flow than you thought, right?
Yeah, and
but you have the relief, right?
I had the relief, and I wonder if some of this is just me letting go of the ideal YNAB's plan, right? That ideal budget. When things were different, imagine when things were going well, right? And there wasn't overspending, you had all these targets, and in your mind, you're like, oh, this is the way it's always going to be, right? This is my ideal spending plan. But then when there's a shift, we hold on to that ideal plan, right? I don't want to let go of that margin that I have every single month, or I don't want to adjust this target up. I don't know. I think there's something there for me, at least.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Should I talk more about my setbacks? Because I have more.
Well, let's keep going. Yeah, we'll just kind of see what comes up.
I think we'll find things to process as we go, because more stuff happens here. So the tax things, and then in July, my daughter Flora, who's 10, she had a major medical issue in July, and it was super scary. I'll share about it. She had a seizure. It's like a really serious seizure. And what was crazy was I wasn't with her. She had gone with my mom, her grandma, to Texas to visit some family, because that's where I grew up. And she had the seizure there. So we're just like sitting in our house in the middle of the night, like wondering what's going on. And they called so she went to like one emergency room, and they put her in an ambulance to another emergency room because they were worried about meningitis, which she did not have, thank goodness. And they fixed her up and took care of her. Right. And then we needed to go see a neurologist to see, if she had epilepsy or something like that. She had some tests done, and actually no signs of future seizures. It's still possible, but she hasn't had any more. So like, we're still in it right now. But this is interesting because you know how medical bills are, right? Where it's like you get a medical bill, and then like 2 months later you get another medical bill, and it's just such a big mystery, right? And so we were like, okay, we're just going to be getting medical bills for the rest of the year, basically, over this. And we don't know how much it's going to be. So let's just save her deductible, or her out-of-pocket max, because we have a high deductible plan. So, we determined, like, all in all, it's probably going to be about $6,000. So for some reason, another like $6,000 is the number for us right now. And so it was actually hard because like we wanted to like repay the emergency fund, but we also needed to set money aside for the medical bills. So I created a category for both. And then I was like, okay, well, Flora's medical bills are going to come first, put money in there and now we're kind of in a place where it's like, okay, the medical bills are starting to slow down, so we can switch to prepaying the emergency fund. Right. Mm-hmm. But again, it's kind of like, okay, if the tax thing hadn't happened, whoa, a bird just like flew into my window. That was alarming. Is that an omen? Is there talking about like medical issues, and then like a bird just died in my window?
I'm sure it didn't die.
I think it's fine. It wasn't going very fast. I saw a wing. All right. Anyway. So, we had the tax thing, and then we had the medical thing, and it's like, okay, I could have like maybe recovered faster. Like, and by recover, I mean pay back the emergency fund, right? Like get back to where I was. But we had this other thing that was like another setback, right? And I just want to say for one thing, I'm just so grateful I could take care of my daughter and not worry about it, right?
Yeah.
And like, I always feel like silly for being bummed about it though, because it's like, oh man, like we haven't been able to make any progress on any of our goals, and it feels like so superficial because like I want to like renovate a bathroom or something. It's but I'm like over here whining about it, but it's like, oh, but I could take care of my daughters, so like I think it does help to like put things in perspective a little bit there too. And also I'm getting through this with no debt, because I have YNAB, I have cash. I could, and like I have the ability to direct cash where I want it to go. I can handle this, So I think it helps to step back and be like, okay, what's the perspective here? I can't do all these things I want to do, but like things are really good. You know what I mean?
Right.
But also, like, I think it's okay to feel to acknowledge, like, oh, I'm a little bummed about this too. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you got to hold both in tension. Like, I don't want to be all Pollyanna-ish and be like, oh, everything's fine. Like, I want to acknowledge, like, no, it's kind of a bummer that I didn't make the progress I wanted to too.
Yes, we're human, right?
Yeah,
yeah, totally. I get that.
So I think it's kind of both. I'm processing this as I talk, but that's what we do on Budget Nerds, I think it's okay to like kind of hold those things in tension and be like, everything's good, but also, I'm a little bummed, and that's okay too.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that because, I'm thinking back to medical things from the past, and I had those same exact thoughts. Like, oh my goodness, I'm so bummed this money can't be used for something else, something more superficial. But no, the money did exactly what I wanted to do, like keep us healthy. And so there's
nothing else that's more important.
It is really good to look at those perspectives and reshift things, especially for someone like me where I can just get in my head and then I just end up spiraling as I just think through over and over and over. But no, just take a step back, change my perspective. That's really healthy.
Yeah. I also think that it's good to acknowledge, like, okay, in this time, I'm just going to maintain. I'm not going to make any progress on particular goals. Like, I need to look back at this year and be like, you know what? We didn't save money for the renovations I want to do, right? And like, just acknowledge, like, that's just not going to happen. And it's okay to, like, just survive. You know what I mean?
Yes, totally. Like, where did that idea
survive, not thrive?
Where did that idea come from that the purpose of money is to reach these far-fetched goals,
Yeah.
I don't know. Yes, I guess that's good to push us forward, but a lot of times there are seasons and the goal is survival.
Yeah. Yeah. One more thing. My son just went to the ER on Sunday, the day before yesterday. So because he had anaphylactic shock. So like another big medical thing.
Jeez.
So no idea what's going to happen with that. Because, medical bills, it's like, it could be anything. Right. But I mean, I don't care. I'm taking care of him, whatever it takes. So, but like, but in the back of my mind, and I hate this, you know what I mean? In the back of my mind, when I'm sitting there in the ER with him, I'm like, oh man, like, we're going to have to clean this up, and it's going to be quite a bit. And he's just like so sweet. Like, he's always like, is this going to be a lot of money? And I'm like, I don't even want you to think about that, buddy. Like, he's 8 years old, and he thinks, I don't know, maybe like, I don't even know like where that came in. Like maybe he could sense something from me. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But I was like, don't worry about it, buddy. This is the most important thing ever. And he's totally fine. But it's funny that he asked that too. I don't know.
Yeah, I've gotten that question from my boys as well. Especially when it comes to different setbacks, where Christy and I will just be talking about, oh, this is going to require, X amount of dollars, or it's going to require a lot of, adjustments that we have to make. And then the questions from the boys, especially from my youngest, I'm always like, oh man, like, I hope I'm not the reason. Like, I hope I'm gonna give this negative vibe.
Well, I want them to like know that things cost money, and like, we have to make, and I want them to understand, like, we need to make these trade-off decisions, right? But I don't want them to worry about it, especially for something like this. I mean, good grief. So like, how do I find that balance, where I wish that wasn't even in his head, but also I do want it to be in his head for other things. You know what I mean? Because I want him to, I'm trying to teach him that money is finite, and you have to make decisions with it, right?
Yeah. Well, and maybe that's another point we can take from this, and that it includes everyone, right? Your partner, your family. It'd be good to process this with everyone.
Right. Yeah. So anyways, I've been playing cleanup like all year, and that's annoying, but I'm also just so grateful been able to handle this with no debt. I could be paying the IRS payments. Instead, I just paid them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I don't have to worry about, obligations. I just paid it. And the only obligation is to myself, to pay myself back for what happened. Right.
Yep.
And that's just huge. Right. Yeah. There's a certain amount of resilience too. This is something else I want to talk about. I think, as you handle these things, this is actually a value of when something goes wrong, and you handle it, and you kind of prove to yourself, I'm a person that can handle these financial setbacks, right? And it kind of builds this resilience in yourself. What I want for all YNAB'ers is for them to be able to look anything in the face and say, I can figure out how to handle this. You know what I mean? Like, because the worst way to live is like worrying that something that's just going to completely take you out. You know what I mean? And like that might be the reality, depending on your income situation and all that. But I for most things, at least, I want you to be able to have the experience where you say, you know what, I'm going to be able to figure this out. I'm going to be able to make a plan. I'm going to be able to handle things, because that's when I think you get a lot more peace of mind, right?
Oh, absolutely. This is such a huge part of dealing with setbacks, is coming out of that and being able to prove to yourself that, yes, I can handle this. And also, you really can handle it. It's not because of YNAB, the app. It's that method that you have been following paycheck after paycheck, month after month, year after year. You know how to handle your money now. Because I don't know, maybe you've experienced this, where you look back at all the gains you've had because of YNAB, right? And you're like, oh, did I just get lucky?
Right.
You know, was I just really privileged and fortunate? And if I were to start this over again, I would end up in a completely different spot. I don't know. Sometimes I think about that, but I'm like, no. Like, I have experienced setbacks, and I've always come out of them just as strong as before. So, like, that resilience is built into me, and I think it's built into every YNAB'er as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I do think it's important to acknowledge your privileges and your advantages, but also acknowledge that, you know, you've built up resilience, you've built up skills, and you've built up the tools and the abilities that let you handle things. And it's a beautiful thing. You know, again, it's another thing you hold in tension. It's both, right? It's some luck and some hard work and some resilience. You know? Yeah. So I think sometimes, I mean, if you just went through life with no setbacks at all, like you still wouldn't be free of worry. You know what I mean? Like I'm free, or like, I don't know if I'm saying I'm free of worry. I say I'm more free of worry because I've experienced these setbacks and handled them. You know what I mean? And I can truly say I can handle almost anything. Like I can look at it and be like, you know what? I'm going to be able to figure it out. Like, cause I'm a type 6 Enneagram person. I'm always like worrying about, but my mind's always worrying. Not worrying. My mind's always worrying about, okay, what's something that could happen, and like, what's the plan to handle it, right? And I not to be like hand wavy, but I've had all these setbacks, and now I can almost say, like, you know what, whatever comes, I'm going to be able to figure it out because I have the tools, I have the framework, and I have the skills and the emotional resilience too to handle it. And I've proven that to myself over time. But if I hadn't had those experiences, I wouldn't have that. I'd still be worrying all the time, right?
A lot of times I think that if I didn't have any setbacks, life would be better. And maybe, but I think that just what it means is I would be more comfortable. I wouldn't have to, look within and do some hard work. But honestly, at the end of the day, I would much rather have a life where I dealt with setbacks and overcame. I don't know. I just think that's a much richer, fuller life.
Yeah. So I think, okay, to summarize a few things. So setbacks can be good because they can build resilience in you.
Yep.
And really have a more fulfilling, richer life, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, because you grow out of those. You come out a different person.
It's good. I think another thing is it's good to acknowledge when you're bummed out. Like, even if you're also grateful for other things, be like, no, it's kind of a bummer that I can't make progress on these goals. And then I think also sometimes it's good to acknowledge, like, okay, for this period of time, I'm not going to make any progress on financial goals, and that's okay. We're not going to freak out or feel bad. We're just going to be like, this is where we're at. It's all right.
Yep. All right, Ben, let's talk real practical here.
Nice.
What can you actually do in YNAB, the app, when you're experiencing or a setback or when you've come out of a setback?
I think I'll just tell you what I did. I made categories, made it concrete, made it real. It's the same thing with you did with Ridge when you're like, what are we doing? You just like you separated out. So, because you kind of need to like analyze the problem, with real numbers. And then a lot of the worrying kind of just collapses into something actually real, right? So, when I had the tax bill, and then I also had this competing thing of like, well, I need to save for these medical bills. I created categories for both of them with a target that was just like, I need $6,000 eventually, right?
Yep.
And it just helped me keep track, because like I would spend out of this category for my daughter's medical bills, and it would say like, okay, you're gonna need to save, $1,700 more, or like $3,000 more, or whatever it is, right? And I'm like, okay, so it kind of like quantifies it to a particular amount, setting those targets, to where I know like, okay, here I can start to like see the light at the end of the tunnel and see when I'm gonna get to the end of it. And it's also motivating, because like I can say, okay, I have a goal to replace the emergency fund this amount, and I can see the progress, right?
Yep.
So like set the category for the problem that you're facing.
Yep.
And set an amount that you need, so you can start making progress on it, right?
That's huge. And then another thing that I would do, I've done this numerous times in the past, is start shuffling money around. You've got those new categories. You've got those new targets in place. Okay, go through every single category and make some adjustments. Now, it doesn't mean you have to make adjustments, but I think it is good to make adjustments, because it just recalibrates you for your new current reality. And a lot of times what you can do is you can generate that sense, that feeling of savings. So there's been numerous seasons in my life where Christy and I it has felt like we are bleeding money, right? So it's like, it wasn't a specific event, but it's just a number of bigger expenses where I'm like, oh my goodness, YNAB isn't as fun. Like our category balances are just going down and down. Yeah, every single month. Yeah. So I readjusted things. I set up the categories different, created some new ones, deleted some old ones, readjusted the targets, but then I started shuffling the money around. And I was able to, take some money out of categories that maybe had a little bit more than what I needed, and put it in some categories where I was like really feeling that scarcity of like, oh my goodness, this is really lower than what I want. And so by boosting that up a little bit, I don't know, things felt different. I came out of that YNAB session just a lot more hopeful moving forward. YNAB felt fun again for me.
Yeah. And depending on the situation, I mean, especially like if you're experiencing a job loss or some kind of income drop, right? You could even create like a new budget with new numbers, like a whole new target. I mean, this is what I did when my wife lost her job. It's been 2.5 years now. I think it was July 2022 when she lost her job. And she had most of the income. So we were like, okay, what are we going to do? That's what I did. I created a new budget with new targets. We lowered all sorts of things. I said like, how deep can we cut on some of these things? And then I compared that to the money I actually had, like all the money I had.
Yep.
The month ahead money, emergency fund money, also money that I'd saved for renovations and things we wanted to do. Right. I was like, well, I'm not going to do that right now. Right. So let's put that in a big pile. And I calculated, okay, we could just cruise in this like lower spend plan for, I think it was like 9 months, right? Because we had so much cash lying around because we were saving for all these things. And that changed everything. Like, it no longer was it changed things for Caitlin. Like, it was huge, because no longer was it like oh gosh, we're scared and feeling bad about getting laid off. And like, but it was like, oh, this is actually kind of exciting. Like, I have time to figure out what I want to do next. And she started thinking about, a business she wanted to start. And also I think it helped her get a job, because there's nothing worse than going to a job interview and kind of like stinking of desperation. You know what I mean?
Right.
You just like this like confident, like setback, relax, not trying to overly impress, just be yourself. I think you're probably more likely to get a new job doing it that way. You know what I mean? So yeah. So create new, maybe like create like a mock budget.
Yeah.
And you could use that for a job loss, but you could also use it for like, hey, we need to deal with this thing. Maybe we have some debt we need to wrap up. How about we go on this lower spend plan for 6 months or 3 months or even a couple months and see what happens, right? That could be really cool. Another thing you could do, I'm just thinking of this now, you could do like a no spend or a low spend challenge, like the more money challenge, for example.
Yeah.
Like that's something that we talked about a lot. If you want to learn more about that, you can just Google YNAB more money challenge. Maybe you're like, I really need to pay myself back for a medical bill, or do like I did, like I want to like build that emergency fund again. Let's just go for like 1 month or 2 months of just a totally different plan where we're spending a lot less, so that we can save more for these other things, right? And it's kind of like a rip the Band-Aid off approach. Like, maybe I should have tried this, or maybe we still should, where it's like, let's just cut spending massively for like a really short amount of time, and it might make a big impact on some of these things that you're going for, right?
I love that idea, especially because it's a sprint. It's a short amount of time where you are being restrictive, and that's sustainable.
Set the time. I think that's important. Like, set the time frame you're going to go for, or at least where you're going to assess, be like, okay, we did this for a month. Am I feeling like this is something I can handle to keep going, or do I need to stop,
Yep.
and have no judgment over yourself about that. Assess the benefits versus the cost, right, of lowering your lifestyle for a hot second there. Don't be like, okay, I'm gonna cut my plan down to bare bones forever, because that's just gonna be a bummer.
All of 2025, no eating out.
Yeah. I mean, or especially if you make it like a moral thing, and you're like, oh, and if I go back on this, then I'm just a failure. Like, oh gosh, don't do that. Just say like, we're going to try something fun, a little experiment, see what we can do, see what I can do for like a month or 2 months. And then assess after that. I think that'd be a good way to go. Is this going to actually get me to do the more money challenge? Because we've had this challenge for like 5 years and I've never done it.
Well, and you could do your own version of it, right? Like, you could try to not spend as much in just one area, and maybe the amount you try to save is different.
Yeah, or I could just go for it and actually, I mean, it would make some content. I could talk about it on Budget Nerds. It might be nice to kind of, because I feel like I said, like the whole year we've just been playing cleanup, and it might be nice to kind of rip the Band-Aid off and like make some major progress. I don't know. It might not make that much of a difference. I need to assess. I need to look and assess like what would be the benefit, like how much would I actually end up saving.
But sometimes just having a new goal is all that it takes to re-energize someone and put them back on track.
I have to think about that. January's coming up. Maybe a good time to clean up some things. Yeah. I might try that, but probably won't do it, because that would involve changing my plan, and nobody does that. I mean, come on. Yeah, but I think what we're saying here is you just need to, when you have a setback, you need to make it practical and like put numbers to it. You know what I mean? That'll make it better, because I think a lot of the times we hit these problems, and we can kind of build it up in our head as like this really awful thing. But if you actually write it down and kind of put boundaries around it, it's actually something real that you can make a plan to deal with. But if you don't make that plan, it's just kind of this blob of scariness. You know what I mean? So you kind of got to look it in the face. And the way to do that is to create a category and create a target in YNAB, you know?
Yep. Start shuffling some money around and see where it takes you.
Yeah, I feel like so much of what we talk about is like just experiment, just like be curious, and I like the idea of actually moving some money around, because you can always move it back, you know?
Right.
But like, see, just like scrape a little off a bunch of categories that you feel like maybe you can Especially if you've been using YNAB for a long time, you probably have all these true expenses that you've been saving up for.
And especially if you have those sacred accounts or categories where you're like, I'm never going to touch this. No,
assess that.
Everything is fair game. Put everything onto the table. All of your money back and ready to assign, reallocate.
Oh man, you're talking about hitting that reset available amounts button. Oh my gosh. I mean, it scares me, but again, you can always undo it. Just try it. It's so funny. I feel like I tell everybody, experiment, be crazy, and I'm like, ooh, scary. But might be good. All right.
Anything
I feel like
else?
I'm giving some advice for myself here, so this is good.
Yeah, we need to do like a 6-month checkup. How has been dealing with the setbacks of 2024?
Well, we'll see what my tax bill is because it might be I get a big refund that solves all the problems because I oversaved this year because who knows? My wife is literally pumping her fists over in the corner. Or it might be bad again. Don't freak out. All right.
Yeah, I've been holding my breath all year.
I mean, I wish I didn't have to. I wish it was simple and it's like, this is what you're going to owe. I mean, like, it is supposed to be that way, right? But like, if for some reason it never works out that way, I don't know. Maybe I need to try to find a CPA again who actually knows what they're doing and won't just ask me to do it all and then make me pay them.
All right, we have come full circle with Ben's tax story. So let's do a couple YNAB wins, and then we'll call the show.
I have an email from Jenna in St. Louis who wrote in and said, "Hi, Bert and Ernie." I see what you did there. Love the show. I got into YNAB in late March 2020, and it has been such a game changer for us. It was the pandemic. I was bored. I gave it a shot and was hooked immediately. We have had many wins over the past 4 years, from graduating law school without any student debt. Wow. Buying a new car, adopting a cat from a tough situation, buying a house in a very tough market, and paying for those property taxes, funding dream vacations, and being generous to those around us. As noted on the podcast, however, the most significant thing YNAB has given me is financial peace of mind and a release from financial anxiety. I grew up in low-income household in a rural area of the Midwest, so money was always tight. And although we have enough now, the financial anxiety can still be a monkey on my back. When this happens, I return to YNAB, check spending, check categories, and adjust goals, and take a deep breath. I feel empowered to make the decisions that are best for me and my family. And to me, that is what financial freedom is all about. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for this podcast. I love the YNAB community, and finding it was a small silver lining in the middle of the pandemic. Awesome. Thank you, Jenna. This is just like what we're talking about, right? When you feel that anxiety or when something goes wrong, just look, check your spending, check your categories, adjust, breathe, right? Yeah. And then I love what you said. I feel empowered to make the financial decisions, make the decisions that are best for me and my family. That's what it's all about. When things go wrong, or just when you're generally feeling anxious, feeling empowered. That's really what it's all about there.
Love that win. Yeah. My win comes from Ashley. Ashley emailed way back in March. I got hit with that Midwest storm on March 13th. Got a local roofing company to take a look, and they gave me the bad news: we need a new roof. YNAB win number 1. Pulled up the app to see I have a house deductible of $2,500. It was empty since I added that this year and need to fund it, but I have clarity of what I need to pay. 2, tried to roll with the punches, but I already pulled money from the car deductible for storm damage too, and had another house emergency clean out the home maintenance fund. 3, started looking at personal loans. Thanks to your loan calculator, I was able to see what our current debt snowball is and play around to see how our snowball is impacted, and got ease of mind that we can afford a personal loan while not setting us too far back on our debt-free goals. My partner was amazed at how calm I reacted to the news and how fast I just knew the numbers and what I needed to do. Thanks, YNAB, for helping me roll with the punches.
Wow,
just like we're
that's
talking
awesome.
about as well. And this one I did cherry pick. I wanted to find something, and it quickly caught my eye. But I just love that. Instantly bringing up the app, you have clarity. Here's where we stand. And, if, there's some new categories in there because of a new reality, and maybe they didn't have as much money as you had hoped, but you roll with the punches, right? You make these adjustments, and it just keeps that anxiety at bay, right? You have peace of mind of, okay, we can handle this. We've got that resilience, and we have a path to move forward.
Yeah. I mean, even if you had ended up without YNAB, if you had ended up making the same decision, get the personal loan, get it done, you may have had a bunch of anxiety about it. But because you could actually have a framework to assess how it was going to impact things, you're like, no, this isn't so bad. We can handle this.
Yes.
Right? That's really cool.
Awesome. Well, if you have a YNAB win, don't hesitate to share it with us. You can leave a comment on the YouTube video. Otherwise, email us directly, budgetnerds@ynab.com.
All right. Well, go ahead and share about your setbacks in the comments. Let's make this like the biggest bummer comment section ever. No, let's make it hopeful, because I think that's what it's going to be, because you guys are YNAB'ers and you've overcome a lot. I have no doubt. So I'd love to see what you've done.
All right, Ben, I think this is the last video of 2024.
Oh yeah, and we have something special for you. Can we say that we're going live again? Should we say that?
Let's say it. It's on the calendar,
Okay.
So yeah, we're gonna do it.
All right,
we're going
January
live
1st.
January 1st. But
It's
that
go
does
time at YNAB. Everybody wants to get their finances in order on January 1st, so we're going live.
We're going live on YouTube, and that does mean a 3-week gap between this video and the first, which I apologize for that. But hey, if you haven't binged the previous episodes, use that time to do so. I'm encouraging
Go back.
I'm
Go
encouraging
back to the first episode. Watch all of them. It's not creepy. We don't think it's weird.
All right, folks. Thanks for your time. Have a great rest of the year. Happy YNABing.